Colleagues, good morning and welcome back to day 2 of the 20th International Research in Distance Education and E-Learning Conference, RIDE 2026. It's wonderful to see so many of you here again in the lovely Senate House and to know many more are joining us online. Before we begin, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone who joined us for the 20th anniversary event last night. It was a fantastic celebration, thoughtful, energizing, and a real reminder of how far our global community has come. Claire's reflection on the history of RIDE and Liz's insights into the innovations that have shaped and occasionally failed to shape our sector over the past 2 decades set exactly the tone we hoped for. Reflective, curious, and forward-looking. The celebration truly highlighted what makes this conference so special. Plus, the cake was delicious. And I'm pleased to say we have some for those attending here today. You may have seen it in the other room. So I'm Professor Linda Amran Cooper, Director of the Centre for Online and Distance Education. Chairing RIDE each year is a privilege, and seeing the community come together as it did yesterday for an outstanding conference day was such a pleasure. Today, we continue the momentum, which I think is appropriate for a conference entitled RIDE. RIDE has always been a space to share what works, challenge ourselves, and spark ideas that push the field forward. Our conference themes capture that sense of momentum, of movement and possibility, reflecting on 20 years of technology-enabled education, innovating to support learner success, building inclusive and empowering learning opportunities for our students, and envisioning the future of online distance, blended and digital education. With submissions from 34 countries, this remains a genuinely global conversation. And I have had the privilege to meet many of the delegates here from around the world and to receive gifts, including the beautiful shawl that I'm wearing today. So I feel really, really privileged to have had this opportunity. Our programme today is rich with research, practice and discussion. And I encourage you to also explore the posters both here in the Chancellor's Hall and online. To those joining us in person and remotely, a very warm welcome. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all who've contributed as presenters and keynotes to RIDE. In reviewing the nearly 200 abstracts received, Code Fellows demonstrated their expertise and enthusiasm for quality, and they are expertly chairing the sessions across the 2 days. The team who developed our new poster section are commended for their dedication and work. I'm immensely grateful for the commitment of the Code Executive Team and the Code Conference and Events Committee. Behind the scenes, I think you'll have to agree that we have been fantastically supported by the AV team, led by Adrian, who isn't in the room, I don't think, but I'm hoping he's hearing this somewhere. And later on, we can celebrate the event by watching the videos and our sessions on the YouTube channel, thanks to the work of the Code Technical Chairs led by Matt and supported by the AV team. The memorable photos, and he's right here taking a photo of me, the memorable photos will be shared with everybody. And they're all thanks to the creativity of Dan, our photographer. I'm most grateful to the UOL teams in catering and facilities who make the in-person experience at RIDE such a comfortable and well-fed one. But none of this would have happened without the wonderful Ash Cox, who I can't quite see. Is he outside? Yeah, I hope he's hearing this. Associate Director of Code, and the equally wonderful Christine Ticci, the Code Centre Manager, who's by the door. I was just going to ask you to show your appreciation. You did it spontaneously. So I think that must mean you've had a very positive experience. So thank you. So I hope day 2 leaves you as energized and inspired as last night's 20th anniversary celebration and our first day of the conference. let's make the most of it. Thank you. I'm going to hand over now to our very exciting panel. I'll hand over to Jessica and Liz, who are going to introduce the panel, and we'll have 2 people join in online, I think.
Thanks, Linda. So we've got a really great panel for you here today. We're joined by Sarah, who's the Director of Digital Leadership and Transformation at Jisc. But most importantly, we're going to be hearing from the people who are at the heart of what we're doing. So we've got 2 alumni and 1 current student from the University of London programmes to give us a real overview of the 20 years that RIDE's been going for. What have been the experiences of students in distance and online education? So we're very lucky to be joined by Carlos, who graduated with us in 2006, Zara, who graduated with us in 2016, and Stella, who's our current student. So I'm going to pass it over for everyone to introduce themselves, then we're going to hear from Sarah, and then we're going to have questions from the panel that Sarah's going to do, and then there's going to be an opportunity for all of you online to ask questions to our panel to really get that great insight into the student experience of learning. Sarah, would you like to start?
So, hello everyone, it's a real privilege being with you today. 20 years, what a celebration. I'm Sarah Knight, I'm Director of Digital Leadership and Transformation at Jisc.
Hello everybody. So my name is Helen Jerry. I am a Kenyan currently based in England. I lead work and study here. I am pursuing an MSc in Public Health at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in collaboration with the University of London. And I'm really excited to be here to share my experiences, to also hear the experiences of my colleagues on screen, see how far the University of London has come since 20 years ago till now. And I can't wait to be involved in this panel. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stella, and particular thanks to Carlos and Zara, who are in different time zones, and I get to get very, very early to speak to us, so we're very grateful for that. Carlos, would you like to introduce yourself now, please?
Hi, good morning. It is a bit early indeed, but not as bad as Zara, I think. Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Russell. I'm Argentinian that has the pleasure of living in London for quite some time. And I did my university degree at University of London and graduated 20 years ago this year. So I work in technology. I'm a technologist, and I run cybersecurity for a steel manufacturing business.
Great, thanks, Carlos. And Zara?
Morning, everyone. My name is Zara Kesser, and I'm half Singaporean, half Pakistani, and I did my University of London degree back in Pakistan, and that was in 2016, so it's been 10 years for me. And I have a background in international development and public policy, and I'm currently doing my PhD in public policy at the George Washington University. So I'm currently in DC, which is why it's super early for me, but really happy to be here. And excited to share my, journey so far and, insights about being part of the University of London journey. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Sarah. So if we could have Sarah's slides back up. Sarah's going to take us through.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity of actually sharing a little bit about my journey around digital. And I wanted to make this journey slightly personal, but very much focused on a passion that I have and that I've had all through my career. And that is really how we can enhance our learning experiences for our students. And it actually all started in South Africa in the 90s, where I was lecturing chemistry. And my students came from very disadvantaged backgrounds. They often didn't have access to electricity at home. And of course, the internet was just really starting in those early 1990s. We set up a computer lab that was sponsored by a commercial company called 3M. And we enabled our students to therefore access simulations and to really visualize those really challenging chemistry techniques and concepts. And that, to me, was just showing the power of what technology could do in terms of really opening up those opportunities for students that really had not had that experience before. I moved to the United Kingdom in 1999, and I was fortunate to work firstly at a further education college where I had a team of what we called ILT champions. I know some of you in the room will remember that, information learning technology champions. And it was all about the start, really, of starting to see a little bit of investment into technology in schools, in further education, and then progressively into higher education. And that was a real privilege then to work for Bector, some of you may know that acronym, and then be part of the FIRL team where we created resources, open educational resources, as well as staff CPD to really help support staff and leaders on that journey around what does technology do to you, for your institution, and how can we take it forward? I joined Jisc in 2004, and I have to say I am so proud to have worked at Jisc for all those years with some absolutely fantastic and wonderful colleagues. But also it's enabled me to put students really at the heart of what Jisc does. And often when you hear and introduce yourselves, say we work for Jisc, people will say, oh, that's the network. That's, the collections. But actually what Jisc is about people. And it's about enabling people to really use technology in the most effective and appropriate way to make a difference to their lives and to their student lives. So back in 2005, we started on the journey of researching students' experiences of using technology. And even back then, staff were skeptical and saying, do we need to do this? Students are learning using technology far quicker than what we are. But it was so essential for us to be involving our students in those discussions around virtual learning environments. We don't often even speak about VLEs these days because it's just a given. How we could perhaps use technology more effectively to support formative and summative assessment. And through that journey, I was able to work with some absolutely inspirational colleagues, Helen Beetham, Rona Sharp, Ellen Lessner, just to name a few, all of whom have had such an impact, I think, on the work that I've done, as well as the work we've been doing at Jisc over those many years. In 2013, we were able to continue that research in a co-design approach where we were working collaboratively with students and again exploring students' experiences in schools with Dave White. Some of you may remember Dave White's work in this area, higher education students, further education students, adult and community learning. And we went into prisons and spoke to offender learners as well, and really started to gather that evidence around the impact that digital was having on students and how we needed to be keeping them at the forefront of our work rather than saying, we think students can do this. And just by those grouping of students on that slide, recognizing that every student is different, has different preferences, backgrounds, ways of working, ways of learning. And we need to be remembering that in all we do. In 2016, we started to pilot what we call our Digital Experience Insights surveys, and many of you in the room may have participated in those, either as a staff member or as a student. And, just a very quick tot up of numbers that we have been engaging students with over those years. And over 312,000 students have participated and shared their experiences and expectations around what they experience every day in the learning environment. And that still absolutely guides us in all the work we do at Jisc. Now, I know many of you were privileged enough to hear Hugh and Elizabeth speak yesterday around the work we've taken forward, because we recognised in all our research that we were missing a very core group of students, our international students. And of course, that is where the University of London excels in terms of many of the students you are supporting, but also more recently, our transnational education students. And I've been very, very privileged to work with Elizabeth and Tabitha Newman, who is our lead researcher, in absolutely, again, putting a spotlight on our international and our transnational education and how we can better support those students. If we can get it right for our students that are at a distance, as many of you are doing, we can actually benefit our students that are in person with us too. And that's absolutely a foundation of our work that we do. Now, I love this quote, and it's a quote that goes back to 2014 and some work that what was then the Higher Education Academy, now Advanced HE, commissioned around partnership. And a theme that's run through so much of our work, and especially, more recently in the work that Elizabeth has led, is around partnership, seeing students, as we're hearing today, as partners with us on this educational experience. And this is absolutely key, I think, I've kept in my mind around the way in which we work with our students. It's not just considering students as representatives or voices. It's actually about actively engaging our students in those discussions and in our work. And yet we still see our recent survey, last year's findings, showed that only 47% of students who we surveyed last year had the chance to be involved in discussions around how digital affects them. And that affects them in so many more ways now than it did 20 years ago, as we're going to be hearing. I was very lucky as well back in 2013 to work with colleagues, Professor Simon Walker, who many of you may know, to establish what is now called the Change Agents Network. And a premise of that was really about showcasing how students are working as partners, mentors, researchers, ambassadors in digital to really co-design and co-create their community. That network is still active, and we've run conferences every year. Our last conference last year was at the University of Plymouth, which is showcasing students presenting. Staff are co-presenters, but students lead. And that is such a fabulous way of really showcasing the work that students are doing in all those different roles. Our Journal of Education, Innovation, Partnership and Change, is one now that's recognised internationally. It's an open access journal, and we have got a call out, which was launched yesterday, to encourage students and staff that are co-creating work and research around AI. So we hope our next edition as well will really start to bring a breadth of experiences together. So do join our CAN mailing list if you're interested in finding out more. So looking back and looking forward, it's really interesting because from those 20 years of research, the themes that come out, and this was echoed in a panel I was chairing at our Jisc DigiFest conference 2 days ago, where I sat with some absolutely superb FE and higher education students, were saying still these same themes. We have to listen to our students. We need to engage our students in all that we do in relation to digital. Please don't make assumptions, and not one size fits all. But equally important, we need to recognise still that many students still have a mobile phone as their sole use of learning and access. So we need to be thinking about access to internet, data and devices. And students still require guidance for learning. All our research has shown that students look to their tutors for guidance, for support, for modelling behaviours around the best use of technology for learning. So don't forget that. Skills. Always be explicit about why we're using particular pieces of technology and how that's going to help their future employment. I always remember one of our FE students saying, the debate around email. Students don't look at emails. And one student said, well, actually, I do, because it's so important for me to know how to manage my inbox, manage my email, because that's what's going to be expected of me when I move into the workplace. So always link back that into how is this going to support you in your future career, your future employment. And of course, we need to continually improve, enhance, learn together and support each other on knowing how to use digital and AI going forward. We need to continue that debate, and we need to ensure that it's not just about using the technology, it's about those surrounding capabilities, confidence, resilience, agileness that we need to create in that use of those different tools and technologies going forward. So do join our mailing list. We have got a mailing list for our international and T&E work, as Elizabeth may have shared yesterday. And I'm really looking forward now to hearing the views from Carlos, Zara and Stella around their experiences of their learning and technology. Thank you.
So, if I can perhaps now move to our student panel, and our starting question is, what was your learning experience like? And I would like to perhaps start with Carlos here, because you graduated 20 years ago. It would be lovely just to hear where it started. What was it like for you?
Right. So, as you in your intro, you talked about the 90s as so far away, and for me, it was just yesterday. But that's where I started learning in my university here in Buenos Aires, and I was working and studying. That's the typical student experience in Argentina. And I was working quite a lot and far away from the city, so my career wasn't progressing much. Then I was sent to the UK on a secondment, and finally stayed on. So from 2002 to 2006, I joined University of London, based in London, but as an external student. So that allowed me to finish my degree and I get a BSc in Computing and Information Systems. But as an external student, although I managed to sit on exams in Senate House, as a lovely building, but my experience was fully remote in the in the olden days without technology connectivity available for the student experience. So I would get on post a set of booklets with the theory and the coursework that I had to deliver by post to Senate House in specific timeframes throughout the calendar student year, and that was, via post was the way I would engage with the faculty, with the college in itself, just delivering coursework. The engagement with the student community at the time, we had computers still in 2002, but it was done through Yahoo groups. So you would get communities per career and per subject, and it was through email. So we would get, coursework is coming, how are you guys doing? But it was fully offline, detached. And I only met some of my classmates on the presentation ceremony once I finished my degree. So it was a different level of engagement as a student community, and it's a reflection of where we were 20 years ago. Since then, I've done two other courses, fairly hybrid digital and full digital. For example, I did an executive management degree in Wharton University, and that was synchronous, asynchronous. I had to participate in forums online. I had to go to Wharton for the final week, and it was a totally different engagement experience. Also did a certificate in AI in Oxford said Business School in Oxford University, and that was, the digital delivery was on videos. So in University of London, I had no lectures. I had to go through the motions of reading the books, reading the theory and the coursework booklets, and get on with the coursework delivery. I had over the last 3 years, done all this digital experience. It was totally different. So different, getting access to faculty members to get queries through, getting essays through on a digital channel, getting feedback immediately, rather than just a post with the final mark of your coursework. So I think we moved on to a more hands-on, more engaged from a student perspective experience, since as technology progressed, where asynchronous and synchronous class content is much better to be delivered that way.
Thank you, Carlos. And what a range of experiences that you've had then over those past 20 years. And we'll come back and delve a little bit more detail into those later. Moving forward then, 10 years, Sarah, can you share your experiences of what your learning has been like?
Absolutely. So like I said, I did my degree, bachelor's degree in economics, back in 2016, and this was in Pakistan, in Islamabad, and this was at a recognized teaching center. And because of that, my experience was kind of, different from Carlos. It was kind of really like a hybrid model, I would say. So we used the University of London online, learning platform and materials. But we also obviously had in-person lectures and tutorials and a lot of support within the institution. And for me, I think that created a very interesting learning environment. So on one hand, I had access to the academic content and standards through the virtual learning environment is what it was called, the VLE. And so that kind of gave me the feeling that I was part of like a global program. But on the other hand, I was, still, studying within my own, city. And so I was within that kind of, local context in Pakistan. And so I was surrounded by classmates, who were taking the same courses. And so we were able to, discuss. So it was kind of like, that whole environment and that combination of the two that made the experience what I would call both, local and international. And so I think the experience can really depend a lot on what stage of education you're in. So I was doing my bachelor's degree. And at that stage, I think, mentorship and guidance are very important. So having that local teaching center meant that we had instructors and administrators who we could speak to, we could get guidance from. So for example, the principal of the teaching institution where I was studying, she was a great support. She even helped, guide students on like career planning and, just overall professional mentorship. And that was extremely valuable for me as well. And so, I mean, later on in 2018, I did my master's in the UK from the University of Cambridge. So I experienced both systems. And even though they were different levels of study, obviously, so they might not be entirely comparable, the experiences were completely different, right? So studying in the UK was obviously much more, it was immersive. It was in terms of, being on campus, you're surrounded by the university environment every day. Literally, you're attending lectures on campus, you're interacting with, students, professors. So it's really different, right? But my, kind of distance learning experience was different, but it was valuable in its own way. It did require a lot of, I would say, self-discipline and independence. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the learning depended on how actively you engaged with the online materials, but also, how you structured your own kind of study schedule. So at the same time, like I said, studying through this teaching center meant that we had local academic support and like a whole learning community. And so I can't deny that that was really, really important for me. And I think it's important to, acknowledge that. So yeah, I think that overall my experience, it really gave me like a strong academic foundation. It gave me that international exposure that I needed at the time, and I couldn't access otherwise. And I was able to, gain the skills to kind of learn independently, which I have to admit that it did ultimately, help me prepare for like my further study and my overall career. So in the end, I mean, the value of digital or distance education really depends on the student themselves, like, their goals, their circumstances, what opportunities they have access to. So for many students, including me, it made like an international education possible in a way that might not have been possible otherwise.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think, there's important points you picked up about the need for support, being able to have access to tutors, career guidance and such, and obviously to experience the different models that you have experienced there and shared. So thank you. I'm going to hand over to Stella now, who is our current student here, and to say a little bit about how your learning experience is currently.
Yeah, so hello everybody. I have to say that I am absolutely mortified when I hear Carlos' experience. because I do not think I would have been able to continue doing online education 20 years ago, to be very honest. So allow me, Sarah, but for me, I'll have a different approach. I'd like to take the audience back to the beginning of how I decided to do an online degree. So at the time, it was 2023. So like I said, I relocated into the UK back in 2020. And I was on a work visa when I came in. So it was in 2023 that I decided to go back to school. So for me, it was the one factor that was very important to me was flexibility, because at the time I couldn't afford to do a face-to-face learning, because that meant I would have to switch to a study visa, and there would have been a lot more complications on there, and I had to take a career break as well. So an online learning was the most feasible option for me at the time. And after selecting or choosing to go the online learning way, I decided the second factor was that I needed an institution that was highly accredited and highly reputable as well. To me, that was very important. I needed an institution that was offering high quality education, and one that was actually recognized by employers and other institutions as well. And that's how I bumped into LSHTM, because I was 100% sure that I was going to pursue postgrad in public health. And I don't need to introduce LSHTM to anyone. I mean, the name speaks for itself. LSHTM is known to offer the best postgraduate in public health in the UK, in Europe, and very highly regarded in the world as well. But another factor that was really important to me was I needed an institution as well that had offered online education for quite a while, because to me that meant that it had moved with the times. This is an institution that to me meant it had enhanced infrastructure to provide this mode of learning. And lucky enough, LSHTM has been offering distance online education since 1998. So it ticked all the boxes. For me, I enrolled into LSHTM, and then during my registration process, I bumped into the University of London, and that's how I knew that the LSHTM was affiliated to the University of London, because the University of London has a very unique way. It's comprised of 17 federation members, and I was not aware of that at the beginning, but it's during my registration that I came to realize that. And to be honest, being accepted to LSHTM is an accomplishment in its own right. So I was really excited when I started. So on to my first year, I'm there, I'm excited, I can't wait to do this degree. But to be very honest, I kind of hit a wall and I hit it quite hard. This was the first time doing an online degree. My undergraduate was face-to-face learning. So it was very different. An online degree was very different. That lack of tutor engagement, because we interact with our tutors through Zoom webinars that are not as many, they're more like 4 or 5 in the academic year. And the only other way you can communicate to your tutor is through the discussion boards of the virtual learning environment. So that was very different, and it took me a while to adapt to that. And then unfortunately, I had confusion on whether I was an LSHTM student or a University of London student. It was not made clear to me what exactly was the role of the University of London at the time. And to be honest, the student portal in the University of London was not as student friendly at the time. So I was still like riding in my confusion. LSHTM was doing its thing, giving me the academic discipline, but I was really confused on what exactly is the University of London. And then unfortunately at the time as well, we didn't have groups like the student ambassadors to lean on and ask questions. So I was lost. I'll be honest with you, my first year I was a bit lost. But then as I continued interacting with my fellow classmates, I bumped into a very large LSHTM WhatsApp community. And this is a community that is comprised of both current students and alumni. And it is this group of students, to be honest, that helped me find my footing. So you can see how important it is for students to engage with one another as well. Because I would ask questions on there and I would get help, the help that I needed on the LSHTM community than I would anywhere else. So later on, when I moved into my second year, I already knew, what the University of London is and what LSHTM is. The University of London, then there was an opportunity to become a student ambassador and a member of the student voice group. And I jumped onto these opportunities because I figured I probably am not the only person or the only novice student who is going through what I went through. And so since there were already official platforms that I could help other students hold their hands, any queries they may have, I jumped onto them. I am passionate about student advocacy. So I put myself forward and I am a student ambassador at the University of London. We help students with any queries they may have. I have participated in induction processes, especially for new students. I feel I would have benefited so much. Maybe I didn't know whether an induction program happened at the time, because like I said, the student portal was not as student-friendly as it is right now. And I commend you for making the student portal way better than it was when I joined in 2023. So well done for that. Well done for listening to us. Because I remember we complained a lot about this in the student voice group. So for the student voice group, basically what we do is, for those who probably do not know, we normally meet with senior management in the university, bring forward any issues that are happening in the student community, and also if the University of London has any projects that they're coming up with, they present that to us and ask us for our opinion. And to be honest, I have to personally thank the University of London for putting students at the heart of their decision-making processes. That is your strength. That is amazing. We really do. I personally really do appreciate that, because I believe it is very important to do that. I believe you've discovered it. I said LSHTM gives me the academic discipline, but the University of London gives me something else that is equally important, which is student engagement. I have seen the progress that has happened since 2023 to now. So I am really appreciative of the fact that you do that. So thank you very much. And so that was my second year being involved in a World Class podcast, where I've spoken about my experiences as a mature student, trying to give tips to students on how they can balance work, life, and study. And now I'm in my third year. I can confidently say that I'm a veteran in this university. And I have enjoyed my time here. I feel sad that I will be finishing next year. It has been a pleasant experience, has its ups and downs. The only thing I can say about LSHTM is that it's amazing. University of London is amazing as well. But then we have a lot of issues with delayed responses, especially in the discussion boards on the virtual learning environment. Well, there has been improvements over time, but I believe there's still room for improvement. And the University of London has improved as well when it comes to responding to enquiries. The Enquiry Hub has really improved, so well done. And that is my story, Sarah.
Thank you. Your role as a student ambassador has been able to influence change. And, for those areas that perhaps were a little bit more challenging, that University of London has, worked with you to address those. So, and I know that you're working in the health sector as well. So to do that on top of all your studies as well is hugely good. So thank you. We will come back to you in a moment, though, a little bit more. So if we perhaps move back to Carlos, if I was to say to you, what was the best aspect of learning online or at a distance? Choose either the online or the distance. What would that be?
Right. I think the ability to to engage at your own pace, at your own, whenever you've got the time to do it, rather than having the fixed schedules. Since I started my career, I've been working and studying at the same time. So being able to juggle sufficient time has been much difficult without the digital capabilities of learning experiences. Let's put it that way. I think that the most important aspect or the biggest benefit for me is the ability to switch from various subjects. So I can be, learning about AI. Everyone should, if you haven't, but not only as a postgrad, as a certificate student, but also on my own for the more tech components rather than more managerial components. I think that ability to switch from high level to really detailed level, it's a treat. It didn't exist when I was a student, a uni student, and I think that gives the choices that you've got nowadays are much more broad, and of course you need to look for excellence in content. But I think that's the biggest benefit. You've got such a choice. And even within the University of London curricula, you've got so much to as an alumni and as an ambassador myself. I'm always tempted to go on another course and that sort of thing. I think it brings exciting on learning, if I would sum it up.
Thank you, Carlos. And you've mentioned those keywords around pace, around flexibility, and being able to fit learning into life, which of course, digital has the ability to be able to do. Thank you. Sarah, coming to you, what would be if you were to choose one aspect of learning online, or your experience of learning at a distance, what was that best aspect?
I think for me, I would, it would be being able to get that international education with me being in Pakistan. So getting that international education without having to relocate, I think that was something that has been really important for me and has also shaped my entire career. As a student in Pakistan, I was able to earn this degree from the University of London, and there are a lot of students who are able to do that because of the fact that there's this opportunity to do this distance learning program, and so that meant that I saved not only on the financial costs of studying abroad, but also the opportunity cost of other aspects of my life that at that time did not permit me to kind of move abroad outside of Pakistan. So I think that was the most that was the best aspect for me. So in a country like Pakistan where international degrees are really valued, so being able to earn a UK degree while staying over there was really important, and at the same time it didn't feel like it was like a watered down version of the education, I would say. So obviously the program, it had the same academic standards and assessments regardless of where students were studying. So it did really make the degree feel kind of global. I think that would be the best aspect. And obviously, like Carlos said, flexibility. That is definitely another important aspect. But I would say it also maybe comes with more maybe benefits and challenges, but I can get into that later on. But yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. And moving to Stella, what one aspect of learning online has been a benefit for you?
So, yeah, I agree with Zara and Carlos. For me, it has definitely been flexibility. And the fact that I'm able to study, work, and do any other life commitments has been a game changer for me. like you said, Sarah, I believe education should fit around one's life and not the other way around, especially as an adult, in adult learning. We all have so many things we are doing with our lives, and it's not usually a feasible option to just drop everything and go back and do intense learning for 1 year. So the flexibility has been amazing, and the fact that I can choose the modules I want to do in one academic year depending on the disposable income I have, the disposable time I have is also so good actually. Yeah, that flexibility option is one aspect that I really value about online learning.
Thank you,
Sarah, sorry, I'm just aware of time and I want to give the audience not just should we go through it? Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody have questions in the room?
And also online.
Yes, so there's a poll everywhere.
Jessica, do you want to just remind people that the QR code, if they're new, is on stage?
Yeah, so there's a QR code that will lead you to the poll everywhere if you want to ask a question online. And if you are online, Matt should have posted in the chat. And then we'll check the poll everywhere questions in a minute. We'll take the question.
Hi, thank you all, that was brilliant. I wanted to ask the students the extent to which they've been given decision-making power in the university. Because what I've heard a lot of is knowledge being extracted from students being interviewed and surveyed and asked what they think. We heard a panel yesterday about the importance of making student voice central to universities and giving students decision-making power rather than positioning them on the outside and the university being able to choose whether or not to listen to them. I think it's particularly important in the context of services like Jisc that charge £270 a year for survey software or £2.5 grand for institutions. And I'd like to know what students think the universities should be doing to empower them rather than just to hear their opinions and ignore them.
Which of our students would like to answer that first? We've had some great feedback already from Stella, haven't we, around the work you've been doing currently. Did you want to add anything further to that? Or Carlos and Sarah?
So because as a distance learning in the 2000s, it was fairly detached experience from giving students empowerment to change things. It was more around getting through the motions of the of getting a degree. I think there weren't that many options of changing the way the program was going. I mean, we could provide some feedback forms around whether the content we were delivered by post was understandable and that sort of thing, but it was more content related rather than student relating. And if we go into finance, as I was living and working full time in London as a management consultant for PwC at the time, I was an alien for my PwC colleagues that I was running around the country and abroad, and while studying a full-time degree, and there were the financial implications of that. It was affordable because I wasn't engaging with a separate learning institution. So I was doing the full distance engagement. So I didn't have a factor of financial difficulty to factor into getting financing options from university, which were provided, by the way. So I think I'm more of the type, I'm more interested about probably as an ambassador and people that are more engaged with the university life, what can be done to cater for that student component on the decision making of the programs that are being delivered.
Thank you, Carlos. And I think for all our work at Jisc, we've got some fabulous examples of even through focus groups and surveys, just the impact that students have been making, particularly in terms of that feedback loop, in terms of being able to report back. And we're currently doing that through our team research, which is meeting with 9 higher education providers, research partners, who are taking the actions and the insights from student voice and from student focus groups and surveys, and really working now with students and staff to look at how those changes can be made and those positive benefits going forward. So it's a theme that, for us at Jisc is absolutely fundamental. And obviously one we constantly feed upwards as well to see any tweets. Have we got another question?
Well, so on online, we've got someone talking about what they think the future of higher education is going to be. So I was wondering if we could kind of round off by asking all of our students, and perhaps Sarah, you might like to comment as well. What do you think the future will hold, or what would you like the future to hold? Given your experiences, what would you like online distance learning to look like in the future? Zara, should we go to you for that one?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, I think obviously digital education is clearly like it's a major part of the future of higher education. And in many ways, I think the University of London was ahead of its time, perhaps. It was one of the early leaders in distance education and in creating this model where international education could be delivered locally for, if I'm speaking outside the UK. And so today we see so many universities around adopting, similar models. And as technology continues to evolve, especially with, the rapid development of AI and just digital tools, I think the key question is not, obviously not whether education will be digital, but how well we design it. I think it shouldn't be treated like a tech product, as it could very well, turn into that. It should be, obviously thoughtfully designed to maximize the benefits of digital learning, but also making sure that you try and minimize the limitations that do come with, digital learning. And so just recognizing that different students have different needs. Some may prefer or may, really need to stick with remote learning, fully remote learning. Some others benefit from hybrid models and, maybe even more traditional in-person programs with increasingly more, more digital components. And also, like, I think one of the most powerful aspects of digital education is that it expands access, right? So, many students cannot move abroad to study, like in my case. And that may not just be financial reasons, it may be other reasons. And so digital education allows those students to access opportunities that might otherwise be, out of reach. Like in Carlos' case, it allows people to study while working, which is increasingly common today as, careers and learning kind of go hand in hand. And at the same time, I think future digital education should integrate like stronger career development and networking opportunities, because I think education is not only, I think, about earning a degree, right? It's about, the skills and professional networks and pathways into employment, which is one of the main reasons for actually doing a degree. So I think there are so many new tools like AI that can help create better systems that can connect students to mentors, employers, and so many global learning communities. And then finally, I'd just like to say that I think it's important to recognize and acknowledge and remember that digital education is about widening access and not creating more inequality. So that means designing programs that consider like Sarah said, access to internet, different realities like access to internet, different languages, and different levels of familiarity with digital tools. Because otherwise, if that's not taken into account, then digital education can, kind of risk, reproducing the same inequalities that it was actually meant to reduce.
Thank you, Sarah. Stella, let's come to you next then in terms of summing up, because I know we're running short of time, but what would you like to see the future of digital education be?
So I'll try and make this as short as possible. So for me, having experienced online learning in this era, once I finish my degree and I'm looking to do another online degree, there's one specific thing that will be a selling point for me from any university, and that's a hybrid learning environment. I don't know how you take this, but I'll just be completely honest with you. For me, I will not be looking for 100% human-led tutoring. Neither would I be looking for 100% AI tutoring. I'll be looking for an institution that is integrating both. I don't mean a 50-50 partnership. I perhaps mean a 70-30 partnership. Allow me to take you through my thought process. So like I said earlier, at LSHTM, the only way we are able to communicate to our tutors is through the Zoom webinars and the discussion boards on the virtual learning environment. So there has been issues ever since I joined with delayed responses on the discussion board in the virtual learning environment. So there's a gap there. Students do feel disconnected. Yes, it is saying that responses will happen in 3 to 5 working days, and that is not always the case, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes questions stay on there for longer than 5 working days. So in order to bridge this gap, why can the institution start thinking about AI teaching assistants? Try and tailor these. This is probably where you'll have to work really hard with your tech teams. Tailor these AI teaching assistants to train them on the course content, let them be program specific, tailor them, train them on the reading list and the course material and the learning outcomes, so that students can always have 24/7 support on the virtual learning environment. Those delays are really cause that disconnect between tutors and the students. And I know this is not only an issue, to be honest, that only affects LSHTM. I have interacted with students from the other federation members and even outside the University of London, and this is an issue that spreads across the globe. And it is a high time that institutions realize that AI is here with us. It's not going anywhere. And we've known since time immemorial that species that fail to adapt to an ever-evolving world eventually die out and become extinct. It's the same concept here. So there are 2 options for the institutions: to either adapt or eventually they will die out. The latter is completely unfathomable, but yeah, I believe it is time that we start thinking about AI teaching assistants on the virtual learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you that are interested in that, those in Sydney have got Cognitive, which is a great tool which they have been using for exactly that thing. So lots of practice to be shared.
Yes, I think we're about to run over, but I'm just going to give Carlos 30 seconds, if you can, just to say maybe one thing you'd like to say in the future.
As a technologist, I'm always wondering where AI is going to change our lives even further. And just to make it quick, I think Sarah mentioned that there is a risk that everything will become a digital product, and I'm worried about that not from being replaced by AI as a student. So would the learning experience be how to train your AI assistant rather than training yourself? So I think it's the balance that was mentioned before about ethics and the dignity of the student, and making sure there is an inclusion component to the needs of the learning outcome for a specific personalized learning experience. And I think we've got sufficient information from e-commerce and from others to get a better inclusion capabilities on digital learning moving forward. And I think I'm really excited about that capability, balancing ethics with learning experiences in a more digitally connected world.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I think thinking about inclusion and the dignity of the students is something that can definitely be at the forefront of all of our minds. Thank you so much to our panelists. It's a shame we don't have all morning to hear your thoughts and things, because there's been such a fruitful discussion. Great to hear all the different perspectives. So thank you very much to Carlos and Zara online, to Stella and Sarah here. And Stella is going to be at the conference for the rest of the day. So if you do want more of the student insight, I'm sure Stella won't mind chatting to people at breaks and over lunch. Thank you so much to all of our panel.